if you're doing the template and you haven't done this before, it's like the one we did for the spring truck challenge if you did that. So you print it off into 4 sheets and then tape it together to get it the right size. As far as brushes, I am just using a large flat, so 1 inch or 3/4 inch, whatever you have is fine. This is just going to be what we use to fill in all the big areas. And then I'll use like a number between 2 and 4. And then if you want to, if you have them, the detail brush. So this is from that set of detail brushes in my store, if you don't have that yet. And don't be like me and leave it in your cup, because then it gets bent. So detail brush, basic round brush, pretty much any size, and then your flat brush. So I've got the template drawn on here. It was actually drawn over top of my old truck template, so if you see that in the background, that's why it looks like that. I changed the shape of the truck a little bit for my new one, and I think I like this shape because you can kind of fit more in the back of the truck. Thank you. LA was so much fun. Yeah, Los Angeles was a lot of fun. Learned a ton. Excited for all the ideas that I have coming back home. So you guys are in store for some fun stuff coming up too. But, okay, here we go. Background, super easy. Dark blue, a little bit of white. So I just have a mixture on there. Load your brush up good so that you have plenty of paint to move around. If you are painting on a palette board, especially, because the wood soaks in some of that color. So if you're painting on wood and you haven't before, it is different than painting on canvas. I think it glides easier than canvas because it doesn't have that pull of the fabric. But depending on how porous your wood is, it can really soak up some paint too. So you may want to dampen your brush just a little. That's up to you. I don't like it to be too wet because then it makes the paint too thin and you see the wood through there, which is fine if you want that effect. There's nothing wrong with that either. So we're just going to do these crazy back and forth all over the place, just filling in. No rhyme or reason to this. Have some areas where it's a little more white, some where it's a little more blue. We don't want one solid color here. Don't stress if you go over your lines. I recommend when you are putting your template on to trace it on, with your graphite paper, transfer paper, whatever. And then I go over it with a Sharpie, because the Sharpie line will show through your paint so you don't lose your lines. If you just leave the graphite on there and then you paint, you might lose your lines a little bit and it'll make it harder for you to see. Nancy, this is 18 by 18. So I do 2 sizes of palettes. I either do 18 by 18 or I do 14 by 24. And if you guys missed it, Corey and I did a video over the weekend that showed you guys how to build the palettes at home. But this truck, like your template is this size. So, just think about that as far as dimensions. It's 18 by 18. So you could put this on a 16 by 20 if you wanted to, or, however big you want the canvas. Or if you want to do it on something smaller, you can shrink down the photo. You can take the original photo, like the color version that shows the picture, and you could even print that off if you wanted a smaller version and just lay graphite paper underneath that and trace that onto something. So that would give you a smaller version of the truck. And once you guys do something, like if you do the truck for several different seasons and stuff, eventually you'll kind of get the hang of the shapes of the truck and kind of embrace their wonky sides. They don't all have to be a certain way. If you're doing the palette boards, I'm going to show you a little trick here. To fill your creases in real easy, take your brush and just go vertical in between each slat like this. And that'll make sure that gets down in the grooves. And then you can go back over top of it and mess it up again. Make it messy. Awesome, Kim. I can't wait to see the palettes that you guys made. Oh, that'll be cute, Tish. That's where I got the idea from, was the cute door hangers that I saw, but there were no paintings. So I'm just gonna go down about this far, about to the bottom here of that truck bed. And then I'm gonna go fill in my window. So if you missed my post yesterday, I'm working on trying to plan some meetups for us. And I know we are spread out all over the place. So if you can't come, we will stream our live event live. So you can kind of watch what we're doing. But I want to plan a local paint night for tribe members that basically is kind of like a workshop. Like, I'm not going to teach you something new. It's kind of like, we've done a couple meetups before where we all just have dinner together and have a few drinks and just mingle and chat, which is awesome. So it's basically going to be the same thing. We're going to still do all that. But I'm also going to give you guys basically some just one-on-one coaching or training, teaching for your paintings, whatever you want to call it. So my thought behind it is bring one or two that you've already started on. We're not going to like paint from scratch, so don't bring a blank canvas, but bring one that you've already started on, maybe one that you've had struggles with or you're not 100% happy with and you want to know how to tweak it and fix it. And my thought is everyone bring one or two and I'll go around and help you with those things that you're struggling with. Your peers are going to be able to help you with those things you're struggling with. But it's really just a chance for us to get together and get to know each other and hang out and have some food and do a little painting. So the event is free. I don't have a date for it yet. But the event is free. If you can't join locally, we'll stream it live so you can see what we're doing. But if you feel like making a trip to Springfield, Missouri, you most definitely can and come join us. So it'll be a lot of fun. And then Corey and I are working on some plans to do more of like a actual weekend retreat style, where those of you who are out of town hopefully could plan on that and fly in, and we'll set it up at a hotel or whatever venue I find and do a, like 2.5 day tribe retreat where we do some projects and do some bonding and all that good stuff. So I'm thinking fall for my first one, and I'm still working out all the details, but I am working on something. So let me know what you guys think, if that sounds good, if you would be excited about something like that, if you would want to come. Diana said, could you paint this for a wreath sign? I'm not sure quite what that means, but you can paint it on anything. Awesome, Tish. I knew you would help. Okay, so I've come down to right here, and now I'm not going to worry about rinsing my brush. You can see I only have a little bit of paint left in there. So I'm just going to jump to my green, actually both greens. Okay, so see how much I'm getting on there? It's a mixture of both greens. I'm not pre-mixing. And I'm going to show you the original real quick so you can see what I'm getting ready to do here. Nancy, it would be in either Springfield, Missouri or Branson, Missouri, depending on the venue I find. Okay, so I'm just going to set this down. Behind this fence, you can probably barely see it, there's some messy green brush strokes back there that are going to act as like flower bushes. That's what I'm getting ready to show you. Do not spend a lot of time on this. Don't waste your time on it because we're putting a fence over top of it. Messy green brush strokes that'll come down to right here, right where like our taillights are going to be. And then we're going to switch. We're going to have messy brush strokes here, and then we're going to switch to horizontal brush strokes and go all the way across for our grass. Diana, I have no idea where Hamilton is, so you would have to Google Maps that. Okay, so I've got my green loaded up here, and I'm not coming up super high. Let's see, I'm looking at my thing. So I'm gonna come up just a little bit above where I am, where I've got my blue. See how I'm just kind of pouncing that? I think you guys have seen this in another video. We kind of do this same motion. And then we're gonna bring it down to about, just filling in those cracks there. I just want some variation of the different shades of green. Super fast step, nothing too fancy. They don't have to be exactly the same as far as height on them on either side. So just about like that. Okay, so then I'm gonna switch my brush strokes. I'm staying with the same colors. I'm gonna get a little more of that apple tart, which is the lighter green, and I'm just gonna start going side to side. And I'm holding my brush this direction. You can hold it that way if you want to, and it's gonna make wider brush strokes. This makes, let me get more paint on there. This makes skinnier brush strokes, whatever way you want, because we'll come back and add a little bit of detail, but I'm just pulling it across there to give me that line. That's where my fence is gonna go. And again, I'm not stressing about getting over my lines a little bit. Not a big deal. So you're just gonna go back and forth between your greens, or you can have a little bit of both colors on your brush. If you change the direction of your brush, like to go in and fill in, just make sure you go back over top of it again so those lines are horizontal brush strokes across there. And you guys see like this knot in the wood? That's what I'm talking about. Like if you watched that video of us making pallets, no piece of wood that you get from the store is gonna be perfect. And I don't like them to be. I like the character of having some knots in the wood in different spots. I just think it adds to the point of having a painting on a pallet board. You wanna have that texture. I can't wait to see all the different things you guys do with the Easter truck. It sounds like you guys have some fun ideas for it. I love the trucks. All right, so we've got our background on there. So I'm gonna leave that and I'm gonna jump to putting my first coat in my truck. So I'm just gonna switch to my round for this one. It doesn't matter what size, just one that can hold enough paint that you can fill your area pretty easily. And And this is just our base coat, so I'm not worried about putting any highlights or anything like that in there right now. And this is going to give our background a chance to dry, so those flower bushes that are going to go behind our fence, that'll give that a chance to dry. So we'll add a couple little pops of color in there so it looks like flowers, and then when that dries, we'll come back and put our white picket fence over the top of it. And this whole thing is going to be filled in. I'm not going to worry too much about getting it too solid because it's going to have so much stuff in it, you're not going to see it. So I may not even mess with that too much. Can you see, like, when I paint over these Sharpie lines, you can still see behind them as long as you're not super, super thick with your paint. Yeah, you guys can do so many things with the truck template. So really embrace your creativity and ideas that you have, because you could do all kinds of stuff. Now that you have the template, that just opens up tons of doors for you. So if there are any of you watching that are local, and I'll post this in the announcements too. So there's a couple things, you know, when I was working in LA and kind of breaking down my 90-day plans and planning out the rest of my year, things I want to do in the membership with you guys and things that are on my calendar, new things I'm offering to the public. Another bonus for you for being a tribe member is the discounts that you're going to get for painting with me. So in the past, local tribe members have gotten $10 off paint nights. And I am going to change that to 50% off. So I'm going to make new coupon codes, add those in. So if you want to come paint this truck on Monday night, you'll get 50% off your paint session as a tribe member. Same thing for the Easter bunnies and the spring truck, anything or spring bicycle, I mean, anything I have locally. Your new discount's going to be 50% off as a tribe member. And then throughout this year, just to kind of give you a sneak peek, we'll have 2 more boot camps. We're going to do one in the spring and we're going to do one in the fall. These are going to be separate paintings from what is inside our tribe. And as members, you get 50% off all of the boot camps. You will also, from here on out, get 50% off on my challenges. So any of those 5-day challenges that are $10, they'll only cost you $5. And I mapped out my kids' summer camp. So if any of you are moms or grandmas and have some kids who want to paint, we are doing a 6-week kids summer camp of online paintings, and you're going to get 50% off that as well. So extra bonus of being a tribe member, discounts. So if you guys want more than what is in the membership, or you just want some of the specific paintings that I'm going to be teaching over the next few months that are separate from our membership, you will get all of those at 50% off. So I hope you guys are excited about that. I'm excited about it. Thank you, Sharon. I'm glad you're a triber too. But yeah, I mean, I think it will be awesome because, and this goes for any of you. Again, if you want to make the trip to Springfield, of course, this applies to any of you. But the other awesome thing about and why I want to give you a 50% off discount is because the more we paint together locally, the better our bond and our friendship is, and you guys are going to learn how to help other people in the class, and you can take the knowledge that you have learned as a tribe member, and when you hear someone in the local paint night struggling or getting frustrated, you're going to be able to use the tips that you've learned and be able to help others with that. And I just love that. It's like having a bunch of mini little teachers in our group. And you'll probably surprise yourself with what you know that you may not give yourself credit for. All right, so just fill this in. Maybe get a little bit more white on there. And you can tell, I mean, I am not really paying attention to like how perfect these lines are, or if this thickness is exactly the same as this thickness. The style of this painting is whimsical. It's not supposed to be perfect. I try to teach you guys that, kind of step away from that perfection thought process and just enjoy painting. That's what we're all doing it for, right? This is supposed to be relaxing and fun, not stressful. You're not trying to prove anything to anyone. You're learning. You can only learn if you do. You can't learn by sitting and watching and not taking action. So give yourself a break and just enjoy the painting. So I'm just going in a couple areas here where I can see a little bit of the wood. And then I'm just going back and being a little messy afterwards, so it kind of looks like the rest of the sky. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse that blue out. How many of you are excited about the kids' summer camp, or think that you have some kids or grandkids who would want to do that? Let me know. I'm kind of anxious for feedback of what you guys think. I'm excited about it. I've taught so many kids classes and they always sell out. So I'm excited about offering them online and seeing where that goes. But I want to know what you guys think of it. If you think that will be something that you want to do with your kids or grandkids. My thought is I'm doing it as a summer camp because of those days in summer where you can't go to the pool, you can't do anything fun outside, and you don't want to watch your kids sit on an iPad all day. Like, do something fun, do something creative. And they can go back and watch it whenever they want to. They can even, I was thinking this the other day, so I'm going to be like making a little commercial for it. And obviously I'm going to have my Sophie paint it and Emma. But we have neighbor kids, and like, why not invite the neighbors over or the cousins over and like set the iPad up, give them all their little canvases, and they can have a little kids paint party in the middle of summer. I mean, how fun is that? I think it's going to be so fun. I like cannot wait to get it going and see all the happy kids painting and getting the pictures. Like, I'm so excited about it. D, honestly, it's going to be like ages 5 and up, but it's in your guys' home. The only reason I ever put stipulation on age is because I teach local paint nights in a restaurant, and I have to be very cautious of where the paint goes in that restaurant because we're on carpet and it gets on their chairs and it just is a mess. So it depends on you as the parent or grandma, or parent or grandma, what you think. I mean, you could do it with a four-year-old, a 3-year-old. Their attention span is less. They're going to want to get up and walk away from it, which again, this is the awesome thing about the video. They can do that. If they get bored with it after 20 minutes, you can stop it and save it and come back to it later. It just depends on what you think with your child and their messiness. That's the only thing I really base it on. And here's the thing, you know, with kids paintings, as adults, we are all like, still, you have that perfectionist mode. You feel like you have to get it right. We expect more out of our kids' paintings than they expect out of their paintings. And as adults, we just have to be okay with that. We may want them to look exactly like the original pictures, but guess what? Most kids don't care, especially the younger ones. They're just happy to be doing it and creating and having fun. They're not worried about it being perfect. Now, yes, you have those, there are some kids who get upset if it doesn't turn out like mine. And you know, in the videos, I'll talk about that and how it's supposed to be their own creation and no piece of art is supposed to be identical. But again, that's the joy of the videos, is that if they start to have struggles or a meltdown, you can just pause it and walk away and come back once they're in a better mindset. So I hope that makes sense. Will this be videos as well to do anytime? These are everything I do online, whether I teach it live like this or just upload a link for you, they're all available afterwards. Like, so you don't have to ever be live when I'm teaching something, because they all stay. This is just white and black for the bumper. So, sorry, white and black. And then I'm just gonna go right into my black, fill in the tires. And I have mine a little bit rounded. And when I'm doing that bumper, I like it streaky. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's not all one solid color. Just brush strokes of black and white mixed together. I always go back in with a little more white because black can be a little overwhelming. So if it gets too dark, just grab some of your white and streak it back in there. Okay, so we've got our basic truck template on there. And I'm just gonna grab, I've got, yeah, that's already dry. Let's see, I'm gonna grab a little bit of my coral. Where'd my pink go? My hot pink. Purple. We'll go ahead and put a little bit of yellow on here too. So if you're just joining, you can, once the video is done streaming, you'll be able to go back to it and watch from the beginning. So we've got these messy bushes back here. We're just gonna pick our colors. I'm just gonna go in and I'm just loading up that brush and just coming in and just real quickly, all different sizes. You can have some more circular. These really are not going to show up very much. It's just to have that color back behind there. So we're just going to go in and do little pops of color. You can decide which colors you want back there or how much color you want back there. But you guys see how messy and quick I am doing this, so again, nothing you need to like worry about getting perfect or anything. And that's that. Then I'm gonna come right down below that and I'm gonna pick up some of my apple tart and a little bit of my yellow just to add some extra streaks of highlights in our grass so it's not so plain. And if you have a little bit of some of those other colors in your brush still, I think that's fine because it'll give you kind of this brownish tone and it'll just look like a little bit of dirt kind of behind there. So again, round brush, just horizontal brush strokes, keep them straight. We don't want waves in our grass. Come underneath here. Maybe pick up some of the darker green. I just bounce back and forth. So I'm bouncing back and forth between dark green, apple tart, and my yellow. You can even pick up, like if you want to, like if I grab a little bit of white with those greens, it's just going to give me another, see that slight difference there? So just have fun with it. There's no right or wrong to what colors of grass streaks you put in here. But I really like the way that yellow adds some little highlights. I'm going to grab some of the white and green, kind of come underneath that truck. And then for like the dirt color that I have under the tires, I'm actually just going to grab some of my coral, and I've left that green in there, and it's just going to tone it down a little bit and kind of give it more of like a brownish color because they're kind of opposites. And then just very lightly, I'm barely pushing down with this, so a decent amount of paint, but I'm just sticking underneath the tires and just doing quick back and forth, back and forth. So it just adds that fun little pop of color. It doesn't have to be brown, you know? So like when you're looking at this from far away, in my original and this one, I use the coral instead of brown, and you probably can't even tell. Like when it's like sitting on a wall, you wouldn't know that that's what it was. It's just enough to give that contrast, like we're on a little dirt path there. So I want my flowers to keep drying back here. So I'm going to move this up here, and we're going to start kind of filling in the back of our truck, okay? So the first thing you can do is just kind of do your outline of where things are going to be, and then we can kind of fill around it. So I didn't trace my little bunny butt on here, but you can trace that part on, and if you did it with Sharpie, you'll still be able to see where you traced it. But I'm just going to do like a little half moon shape. So just a semicircle. And when you're doing this kind of painting, like we're going to have a lot of base colors. Like they're not going to look finished until we add our black outlines to it. So it may not be what you quite expect right away, but don't worry about that, because when we add the black outlines to it, it's going to be fine. So we want this fluffy little tail. So I'm just coming around, just white, and just coming around like in little circles. I'm just going to go ahead and fill that crevice in there. And like I said, you're not going to see a big difference right away because we don't have the outlines on there. So a lot of this has to do with the outlines. We just want a little cottontail, fluffy cottontail on there. And then for the feet, again, this is on your template, but if you were freehanding it, it's like an upside down heart that doesn't connect, and then one more little loop in the middle for those feet. And then we'll do one over here. So I'm just starting out with like a heart shape upside down. So that's my basic little bunny there. Hey Terry, now I'm gonna grab a little orange. And I'm leaving the white in my brush. Orange is a very transparent, like see-through color. So I'm leaving a little bit of white in there so it stands out a little bit more. So especially with the carrots, they're all gonna kind of meld together initially. I'm gonna start with my shape in the background. That first one comes up and kind of overlaps that side mirror. So it comes down. Not a complete point because it's going to be tucked behind that tailgate. I'm going to grab a little bit more white with my orange. And that, again, just makes it more solid. Makes it less transparent or see-through. Opaque would be the art term for it. So that's my first carrot. And then I've got another one that kind of overlaps just a little bit here. And it kind of goes in, if you're doing a palette board, mine goes like right into the slat there. But you can't really see a big difference. If you want to, you could come back just for your own sake and put like a little brighter orange there so you can see your edges. Thank you, Dee. I know this is a fun one. It's so cute. And then we're gonna have a shorter one kind of come out here. And I'm doing that on purpose. Well, I'm gonna change that angle because it's all gonna be orange there. But I'm staggering the heights of my carrots. So tall, medium, short. We don't want them all the same height. So just pay attention to that when you're doing it. All right, so carrot shapes down. Now we're gonna do our eggs. And I'm gonna do one kind of purple. Again, I'm grabbing a little bit of white with that. And my first egg shape is right here. And you could add as many eggs as you want to your painting. And you can move them around. You can put them in different spots. Doesn't have to be like mine. And there were so many, there are so many different Easter trucks online if you're on Pinterest. Some had cute little chicks out the back, and there's all kinds of stuff you could do. Get creative with these. Change your egg colors if you want. They don't have to be the same as mine. And then my next one, I'm just gonna wipe that off a little bit. I'm not gonna completely rinse it. This one's gonna be hot pink. And it's gonna come up higher. Again, just think about staggering so we don't have things all the same height. I'm gonna go ahead and just paint this solid all the way down there. Just outline that a little bit. We're gonna have grass coming over top of that, so you're not gonna see it anyways. And if this is your first time painting with me, do not feel like you have to go at my speed. Keep in mind, I've been doing this forever, so I paint a little bit faster. You guys can watch me do a step and then pause it, paint, and catch up, and then hit play again. So don't ever feel like you're supposed to paint as fast as I'm painting. If you do, that's great, but it's definitely not the norm. All right, so we've got our basic shapes inside here. Now I'm gonna add all the grass in. So I'm gonna start with dark green and a little bit of my apple tart. You guys like being able to see the palette on here as I bounce back and forth. I think that helps sometimes. And I'm just gonna start quick little angled brush strokes to add our grass in. Don't get too stuck on this, because there's gonna be so many flowers over top of this. So don't let this stress you out or worry about it. You can even cheat a little bit. See how I'm kind of going around here and outlining with my green first. Okay, and then you can add in those brush strokes. But if you wanted to, if you really wanted to just make it super easy on yourself, you could do this. Just fill all this in, solid greens. They don't have to be the same. I mean, one solid block of color. You guys know I don't like solid blocks of color. But we're just gonna fill all this in. I'm not worried about the brush strokes right now, just getting the green background in there. And I have mine pretty much filling in this whole truck bed. I may leave a little bit on the edges here so I can have some grass kind of flare out there. Okay. About like that. But I'm not worried about what that looks like, okay? That was just quick filler. So now what that allows me to do is come up a little higher here, and then I can do these quick, like, see my wrist moving? Little flicks of the wrist. And just pull that grass out. So you won't be able to see that that was just a block of color filled in there. And you can decide how high you want yours to go. I went fairly high on mine, so I didn't have a big open space in the back window. And then we want some kind of sticking out the side. These can be a little curved. And they can be wispy. They don't have to be when I'm doing that. Kind of curve them out like that. See how those lines kind of fade a little bit? I'm going to zoom you in now that we've got the background done and get you a little bit closer. And you can even come in with a little bit of yellow with your green. Get some of those lighter shades of color in there. So any of your yellows and greens you can just kind of play with. I just kind of want it poking out the side. And then I want some coming out our edges here. Over top our Easter eggs, a little bit of grass puffing out the side there. And we'll be able to come back. We'll probably edit this a little bit more because we're going to add more details to our eggs and our carrots. And then you can come back if you need to with the green. I've got some dried paint on there. And then for the tops of my carrots, I just had 3 little like almond shape leaves coming out of them. And I used both greens. You can kind of come back. Again, just base color. When you're doing this, don't think of this as like, this is what the final part is going to look like. They all kind of taper to one point, so they're not coming out all the way across the carrot. I mean, they can a little bit, but you kind of want them tapered just a bit. And with the brush, you can kind of just let the brush do the work for you. So like one curve and another curve. So curve, curve. Little parentheses that touch. Kind of overlap and pull down to the base there. So now we've got all our basic shapes inside of here. I'm checking on my flowers. I was very gloppy with some of my pink, so that's still drying just a bit. So let me think what this is dry. I'm trying to decide what I want to do next because I don't want to go wet on wet. You are welcome, Diana. Is that? Yeah, you guys can still see. Okay. So while I'm waiting on some of that stuff to dry, I'm gonna go in, same brush, I'm still using that bigger round, and I'm loading up my black. I'm kind of wiping it on the side so it helps my brush go to a point, and I'm gonna do those wispy outlines. They don't have to be right on your lines. They can go a little bit outside of the line or inside the truck. I don't want them all solid. We don't want one thick solid line outlining our truck. We want little wispy lines. And if you get heavy, I think that'll end up being fine. But if you do something like that and you don't like it, just do not try to mess with it while it's wet. Let it dry. You'll be able to come back and fix it. So I'm just going back and forth. You have to keep reloading your brush. So make sure you have enough paint in there so you can make the brush strokes. We'll outline our little bit of our side mirror that's actually showing here. And I go in the inside too. But see how that's not all connected? So same thing here. And we want to give that little separation on the back end here. Now my black line, if it comes over your grass a little bit too much, we can always just pull the grass back over top of it. I'm going to do that here because I want a little bit of black on that edge. It's not going to show there. Across the top of our bumper. Across the bottom. So you guys see how I'm just real light when I do this? It's kind of like you're touching down a little bit, then you lift up, then you touch down again. And then on the inside here, I'm just gonna come in and kind of do like a mock, like rectangle, like shape inside of here to look like the back of the tailgate. And then we want to add where our license plate's gonna be. If your grass overwent your tire a little bit, mine did just slightly, you can go back and touch that up. Okay, so we're getting to some things being dry where we can start. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put a second coat of orange on here because I can still see a little bit behind there. And then I think no, I'll wait and do all the black outlines at the very end. So I'm gonna go back to my orange. And once you have that base coat on with a little bit of white, if you want it to be more pure orange on top, you'll be able to do that because it already has that base coat on there. I'm going to take a little bit of white with my orange, and I'm just going to do this little like side to side. It's barely noticeable, just a tiny little bit of highlights that we're going to add in there. They're going to become more accented when we add the black to it. Just a tiny little bit. Okay, so I need a second coat of my pink here because it's kind of see-through, so I'm going to add my second coat of pink on. Yours may not, that just depends. And you can get super creative with the designs on your eggs. You could do whatever you wanted to. Now we're going to do inside our little bunny's feet. We're going to have little ovals. So one big one towards the top of the feet, and then one in each toe. And again, these are going to look so much better once they're outlined in black. If you don't have a steady hand and you're worried about doing these fine detailed outlines in black, just cheat and do a Sharpie. You'll be just fine. I won't tell anyone. Little pops of color there. Okay. I had a little bit, I'm going to grab some of my white. I had little streaks of white and pink in my bumper. You can decide whether you want to do that or not. I always like to add a little pop of color whenever it's just gray. And I brightened up my license plate just a little bit. I'm going to tone that down with a little, tiny little bit of ocean breeze in that white. Not that much. I think I want to pull that out a little bit more, and then I'll put my black outline back around it. So just give yourself the freedom to make changes. Like as you're going, just because you put a brush stroke down doesn't mean it has to stay where you put it. You can come back and change things as you go. All right, so I like that. Now I'm gonna grab, let me rinse this. I'm gonna grab my white. And I'm gonna do these little quick zigzaggy streaks in my tires. Just like that. And then I've got my little white highlights. Again, this is not really, in this type of painting, it's not really thinking about where the light's gonna hit. You're just very quickly just gonna come over and just wherever your brush touches down, that's where you've got some white highlights. Quick, don't overthink it. Don't allow yourself to overthink it. Come in here, your window, add some of these diagonals. Not pressing down hard. Not very much pressure. And then we'll come in here. And same thing, you can add as much or as little white as you want to. Now I think we're finally ready to do our fence. I'm going to zoom you back out. You guys see it all? I'm going to get a little bit more white on my plate. I feel like you're still not high enough. Okay, so fences, super easy. If you haven't done one from one of my previous paintings, they're the same no matter what painting we do. This size brush, I have 4 posts on each side. I do not worry stressing about getting these perfect, okay? I have them a little bit higher than my grass in some areas, or my bushes in some areas. So I'm just gonna start on this outside edge, loaded up white brush, and just pulling it straight down, back and forth to that line that we created, okay? Then I'm gonna jump over, do another one. Mine picked up a little bit of pink, not worried about it, because I know I can come back and put a second coat on. And we'll jump over here and do the same thing. This is, if you tend to be heavy-handed, you'll like the fence posts, because you can put a lot of pressure down and just go back and forth. And then we've just got 2 horizontal lines that go across. That was some really wet paint over here, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Pull that out and off my edge. So we're going to let that first coat dry a little bit. So if it pulled through, any of your colors pulled into it, you don't need to worry about it, because we're going to let it dry and then put a second coat on, and it won't matter. So let's come in and start adding our flowers into the back of the truck. So I started with my purple tall ones that you guys have probably done by now. So I'm just getting some purple and white together and starting like low in the grass. It's all clustered together, and then as I get higher, they start tapering. And you can get as detailed or as crazy as you want to with these flowers. You can add in all kinds of different shapes. While I'm in my purple, I'm just going to come in and put a second coat on my egg here. Kind of pull it on top of my pink one. Okay, so I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to rinse that a little bit. I'm going to save my white flowers for last and then do these background ones. So I'm going to do little yellow, just dots. All over. Wherever you want. They're no certain shape or anything. Then I'm going to do coral. That coral seems to really be drying fast for some reason. These are my favorite kind of flowers because you really can't do it right or wrong. This is a little coral, and it picked up a little of my hot pink too. So I'm just going to kind of leave it like that. And then I've got the hot pink, and they're kind of like tulips, but like they're really messy. So just kind of like a curve, almost like a heart shape, but it's more rounded at the bottom. Can you guys see that? So it's just like a little curve and then a back curve. And again, add as many as you want. All different sizes. They don't all have to look the same. It's basically just about having a variety of colors kind of popping in. I'll pick up a little bit of white with that and just kind of streak a little bit of that in there while the pink is still wet. And while I'm in the pink, let's jump down here. We're gonna just add little ovals on each side for our tail lights. And then I just took a little bit of yellow and just kind of swirled it in there. The yellow's almost dry. Let me grab a little bit more. So I'm just kind of swirling that in. It's not exact on either side. So now our little white flowers, I'm gonna rinse that brush. I'm gonna grab my white. Load it up pretty good, and then I'm just gonna come in again really randomly, and kind of like you're making a star. It's got like 5 petals, so I'm just pulling down, just like that. So you can almost just lay your brush down and it makes the brush strokes for you. Let's add a couple over here. That one got a little messy. Just straighten it up a little. Let's have one come over the edge. Let's see, I have 5 up here, so let's put one more closer to our Easter eggs. And then I've got a couple that go over my carrots, but I'm gonna wait and add those in until after I get my black highlight lines on my carrots. Grabbing some fresh white, and I'm just gonna go over my fence really quickly. You don't have to put much effort into this for this second coat because you've already got it on there. This is just covering up if it was like pulled in some of your background colors too much. So just pulling that across real quick. And I'm going to let that dry before I add the black highlights on there. So I want to rinse that white. I'm going to come in with some of my apple tart inside these little leaves here just to give a little bit of highlight and difference in color. Again, nothing too exact. There's no like right amount to add in there. Everything kind of comes together once we add the black highlights to it. So until then, it just doesn't look quite finished. And then I chose to do little pink centers in the side of my flowers. You can pick whatever color center you want. So I'm just kind of got my brush loaded up good, come in right in the middle, pushing down. And if these mixed with any of your colors, you can come back and add a second coat of white on there. Okay, so I think we're to the point where we're just gonna decorate our Easter eggs however we want. So I'm just gonna do some lime green stripes, kind of curved lines on my purple one. And I think, let's see, do I want to do it the same as I did on my original? I'm going to flip my brush around. I'm using the back end, and I'm going to add some little polka dots. I think I'm going to do it different than my original. I think I'm just going to add all white on this one. That's pretty cute. And then on my pink one, I did little like chevron zigzags. Thank you, Donna. So I'm just gonna grab my yellow, and don't worry about these being perfect. If you look at the original picture, you can see that they're messy, not perfect. I'm just gonna start going down, up, down, up, down, up. And again, yellow is very transparent, so you may have to do a second coat once it dries. Just drop down a little bit. They're not going to line up perfect. Make your second row. And then let's add one more down here. You're only going to see part of it. And then I came underneath that with the same color as a truck, that Ocean Breeze. And you can switch to a skinnier brush if you want to for this too. Some of you are much more detail oriented than me, so it depends on your style. If you like perfect little details, you're going to want to use a smaller brush for this part. I embrace the messiness. Then I'm going to do the same thing, flip my brush over, add some polka dots in here. How cute is that? Hey, Diane. Okay. So I'm gonna grab my white, touch up some of my flowers that got some pink pulled into them. I think I'm gonna add some little white dots in here too. I like little white flowers added throughout. Maybe a little more yellow over on this side. So you can just keep playing with it until you like the amount of flowers you have going on there. All right, I'm double checking, but I think we're down to just some highlights. I'm gonna pull my grass back over in a couple areas where I had those black lines. Pull it back in front of this fence here. In front of my eggs. You can decide how much you want to pull out. All right, so got that done. I'm gonna switch to my skinny liner brush and black. So the very last thing we'll do is add the tulips in front of this fence, because we're gonna go ahead and outline everything now. So I'm gonna start with my carrots, and I'm outlining each little leaf. But again, this liner brush is amazing for this. You get these quick, fine little lines. I am not putting very much pressure down. So I have enough paint on there that when I pull it across, it's picking up just enough. It doesn't need to be, you're barely touching the board, okay? So I'm going to start with this outline. Keep reloading your brush. Remember, these bristles are tiny. They don't hold a ton of paint. So you have to keep going back. That one's just going to stop right there, and then this other one's going to come in front of it. You're not really going to see that side, so I'm not worried about getting that other side completed. Now I'm just going to do some quick little curved lines, kind of like what we did down here with the white. Just get our little grooves in our carrots here. And I'm going to come back and add some white on top of that in a minute. Then I'm going to outline my eggs. And I'm going to zoom you guys in so you can see the detail on this little bunny tail, our little cotton tail. Get you a little bit closer. I'm moving you all over the place. There you go. Are we straightened out? All right, just getting my black was getting a little gloppy, so I'm stirring that up just a little bit. So I'm gonna start with the outline of like that semicircle here. I'm gonna stop at the tail and leave that. Nope, that got too much water in it. Then we'll outline the feet. And again, if this stresses you out and you don't want to use a little skinny liner brush, or you're scared you're going to be too heavy-handed, you can cheat and use a Sharpie. Just don't do super solid lines if you do a Sharpie. Still make it kind of separated. Or if you're doing the brush and you want to do it this way and you mess something up, it's fine. Just wait for it to dry, and then you can come back and add white on top of it. So we've got these little curves. I'm going to start by doing the outline so we can see the outline of the little cottontail. So we've got our little curve in there, and then I'm just going to do these little curly cues inside. So I start going around the outer edge. And then I think I have like one in the middle here. This one may be just a little curve there. Depending on how your wood separates, we'll just leave it like that. And again, if that's too much black for you and it's more than what you want, just let that dry. You can come back and add, use the same skinny brush and come back and add some white back in there. I even picked up a little bit. I'm going to show you this in the original. I even picked up just a little bit of like the purple with the white just to add another shade inside the cottontail. But if you want to do that, you want everything to dry first. So let's add our little hip hop on here. And I left a space in between for a little heart. Oh. Thought we froze up for a second. And then I'll put a little heart in here. And I'm going to take the same skinny brush. I need to get a little bit more of my black paint. So you guys can see what I'm doing on the fence. When you're doing this, decide whether your horizontal lines or your vertical lines are going to be the back, okay? So for me, the horizontal lines are the back. So I'm just going to come in and just add quick little dashes in between here, in between the slats, or the posts, whatever you want to call them. And then I'm going to do my vertical ones. And again, quick, wispy, not perfect. I don't want to pull my black lines over top of my grass, so I'm kind of leaving that there. So that's our detail there. There's a lot of detail in this one. A few more things. Rinse the black out of that. I'm going to grab a little bit of white, do my little streaks of white in my carrots in a few spots. And then we can add in those couple of white flowers here. Wiping that off, I'm gonna grab some of my green, and we're just gonna do like super wispy. Think of it like tall, skinny V shapes. And I'm actually okay that this pulls in a little bit of my black because it'll just add to the definition here. We're just gonna do these quick little shapes across the base of our fence line to be kind of the leaves at the bottom of our tulips. Doesn't matter what green you use. I'm using a combination of both, so I'm just kind of dipping whatever it picks up. That's what I'm using. And then those tulip shapes again, kind of like you're making a heart, and then you can add like a little center in the middle of them if you want to. So I'm going into my pink. I'll add my little heart in here so I don't forget about that. And like I said, I'm fairly messy with these. You can be cleaner if you want to. So I'm just kind of doing, I'm going to scoot you and zoom you back in again. All right, you can see the fence there. So you can have some stagger. One brush stroke down, another one in the middle. Down, down, one in the middle. So just like that. And then we'll switch to the other side. I need a little bit more pink. But it's going to be the same thing. You can stagger as many as you want to. And we've got our little tulips over there. Do the centers here. And I outlined my heart. So just grab a little bit of my black. Very simple, just tiny little outline there. Get you so you can see the finished painting. What'd you guys think of this one? You like it? A lot of detail, so take your time. Oh, I see one little outline your tail lights. Sometimes you gotta take a step back so you can see things. I love it. I hope you guys have fun with it. I can't wait to see them.